What's up, y'all? This is Venger, Satanis, and another driving video, because I literally have 10 minutes to drive back home, and then I'm back to being a prisoner of the house. Mr. Mom, stay-at-home dad on the weekends. I've got a wife and 5 young children, and the chaos never stops. So this is my chance to respond to RPG Pundit, who responded to my video in response to his video about my book. It's two PDFs got put into one book, one softcover, available on Amazon. First book is Play Your Character Like a Fucking Boss, and the second book is the Player's Handbook. Just Player's Handbook, Like a Fucking Boss. So both of those PDFs have been combined into one softcover. Anyway, without further ado, Pundit has a point, I will reluctantly say. He has a point about player agency, and basically, if your character is dumb enough to put his face into a sphere of annihilation, then, you know, he should get what's coming to him. And if you roll a saving throw, I mean, I guess because it's your character and you're rolling the dice, that it feels more like you're in control of your fate, or you're influencing luck somehow. Maybe that's just the magician in him talking. I can sort of see where he's coming from on that point. Nevertheless, in some instances, I'm not saying all the time, every once in a while, maybe 10%, maybe less, maybe about 5%. There are times when it's a little bit out of your hand. I mean, you walked into the fight. If you choose to fight, you know that there's even the remotest possibility that you will die. So you could have not even fought, like when he was talking about that battle, that large battle, and there's a table, that if you just don't have enough time, or, you know, if you kind of want to get to other things and you don't really want to deal with it, let's say there's a swarm of like 87 giant insects in this chamber, and the PCs really have to like kill pretty much all of them to get to the other side of the room, where the exit is. So you could do that battle. You could do that whole hour and a half battle. If you're playing 4th edition, Jesus Christ, 6-hour battle. Or you could roll on this table. You don't have to go to battle, though. You could look for another way. Maybe you could use magic, or you could use some sort of stealth, or you could just like look for another passageway to get to where you want instead of going through that room. So, you know, still, the player does have some agency there. And in other games, other scenarios, yeah, there are times when usually it's triggered by the player doing something, though. The player enters maybe a holy shrine, or they step on a discolored stone, or, you know, they touch the wand or something like that. And then there's a random effect, usually. But that's still all triggered by the player deciding that they want to go forward and do that stuff. But that's kind of the gonzo, old school, you know, part of me that likes it when players try things, because then you get to see different effects. It's rare when I have something that just like automatically kills people. I don't do Tomb of Horror or Lamentations of the Flame Princess. What was it called? Nega Dungeon, like an anti-dungeon, where it's basically just a big setup for fuck you players, and it's like a horror show, where everything is set out to kill you, and at that point I think it just becomes no fun, or a lot less fun. Maybe for a one-shot, if you're doing kind of like Call of Cthulhu meets Dungeons and Dragons, and he just wants to enjoy the slow degradation of the party until you spiral into utter devastation. Maybe every once in a while that's fun for some players or some groups. I can't get into that, and so I don't do that. But I don't make everything like a dungeon bouncy house where it's just all fun and unicorns and rainbows and nothing bad ever happens. I like the middle ground where there's some good and there's some bad, there's some weird. Anyway, that's mostly what I wanted to address. Oh, the death race thing, that's not really an adventure per se, which is kind of why I gave it out for free. I mean, it's more intended for, I don't know, if you have like an extra half hour and you just want to screw with players, or if people are really desperate. It's kind of more for NPCs. Like, let's say the players are betting on the race, and so there are a bunch of NPCs that are entering the race, or maybe, you know, I don't know. But there are ways to mitigate that, which leads me, okay, this is my final point. Just because it's written in the rules, like, that there's a table that if you roll a 1, like, happens. That doesn't necessarily mean that the players can't mitigate their circumstances or that outcome by inventive play or whipping out, like, the glove of Shen, or, you know, some other way. There's always something you can do. So just because a description is set up in such a way, or a room, or a random table, or a monster, that doesn't negate the fact that there's usually always something that a player can try. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to save their bacon, but you can always try. You can always ask for a bonus or some sort of advantage. You can always try to do something and make the best out of your shitty circumstances. I mean, I shouldn't have to say that as a disclaimer or a little asterisk after each unfortunate result. Like, hey, you know, don't be a total dick of a GM. You know, if the players want to, you know, think of something inventive or creative to weasel their way out, you know, at least give them a chance. I mean, maybe some GMs need that. Maybe they need someone to hold their hand or tell them that what's on the page is just what's on the page. The actual adventure is the back and forth between you and the players. That's where the adventure lives and breathes. What's written on the page, you know, are really just extensive guidelines. Like the designer's fleshed out outline of what he suspects might happen, all things being equal, regardless of special circumstances. But special circumstances happen all the time, and a GM just has to roll with that and anticipate that the players are going to do things that he didn't expect, that the designer didn't expect. That's one of the things that makes role-playing games awesome and fun. It's, you know, there's always something unexpected around the corner. So, having said all that, I think 99% of what I write is still old school, or can be put into the old school Renaissance. Because the thing about a Renaissance is that it's not just a rehash, a regurgitation of what came before. It's taking what came before, modifying it, innovating it, and maybe putting a fresh coat of paint on it, and have it be something kind of new. reminiscent of the old, but still a new thing. And whereas Pundit sees me as coloring outside the lines, sometimes I don't even see lines. Like, I'm beyond lines at this point. I'm doing my own thing, my own vision. And I don't know. Some people probably see it as crazy, or I've had people claim that I'm a genius. I'm not going to dispute that. Not necessarily going to pat myself on the back either, because, one man's genius is another man's raving lunatic. I think I'll just leave it at that. And tune in, though, to tonight's episode, or watch a couple days later. And once a month, every month, Inappropriate Characters, our RPG talk show with myself, Pundit, Grim Jim, Desboro. Should be a good time. All right. Stay safe out there.